Hello and welcome to Emotional Eating Unwrapped, a new episode this week that I'm really excited about. I have a really special guest today. I have Dr. Kristi Tompkins, and I'm excited because she embodies all of the science, feminine energy embodiment that I just love to talk about and to just get my hands into myself. Dr. Kristi Tompkins, she is a naturopathic doctor, functional medicine practitioner, and business coach. And she has a special focus on women's health conditions, mind body medicine, and conscious entrepreneurship. Dr. Kristi absolutely loves helping her clients transform their lives and their businesses through awareness, resilience, and empowerment. Oh my God, how amazing. Dr. Kristi manages an online business, hosts her own podcast, Fire, Soul, and Grace, and loves to develop new connections with her clients and colleagues throughout the world. What an inspired woman. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today. So happy to talk to you.
Yeah, I am so excited to be here with you today as well, Alana.
Yeah. So I am just, this podcast, I know we just recently met and I kind of just dove deep into your work. We had an amazing conversation last week, um, getting to know each other a little bit more. And you're just so inspiring. And I really just want to hear about your journey into how you got started doing what you're doing. You're doing so much for women. You're doing so much for the world. Your vision is huge and just so impactful. And I'm kind of one of those people that just loves getting to the root cause and the root of the beginning of everything. I think you are as well. So, yeah, I would just love for you to share how everything got started for you and take the mic, so to speak.
Yeah, thank you. My I don't want to go back too far, but my background's in nutrition. I think you've got a background in dietetics or nutrition as well. So that's what I studied many years ago. And to this day, I still love to talk about the nourishment and the medicine of food. Obviously, we need to eat to survive, but it's also medicine. It's also therapy, and I love seeing the transformation. Have seen the transformation in my own life, and I've also seen it in the lives of my clients. I went through some health problems back in my 20s. This is before I went back to school to become a naturopathic doctor. I had some health problems. I had hormone symptoms. I was always skipping periods. I had amenorrhea. So I was always like, is it going to come this month? Am I going to get it? What's going on? Is this normal? And kind of reflecting back, it was probably related to stress, emotional stress, not enough progesterone in the second half of my cycle, maybe some food sensitivities, IBS, a whole assortment of other symptoms in retrospect that I can see now. But it took my body a really long time to get to that point where it felt safe and it felt peaceful and grounded. And I also sought out the help of functional medicine doctors, naturopathic doctors many years ago. They helped to support my body from a botanical perspective, from a nutritional perspective, and I was able to start getting a regular period. At certain times in my life, I'm one of those people that I think we're all sensitive to stress, especially chronic stress. But for me, that was the one place that it hit the hardest is my reproductive cycle. So a lot of hormone symptoms. I had some skin issues. I had like cystic acne. I had food sensitivities that were undiagnosed, untreated. And so through a series of health problems, I was kind of on my own personal journey, and discovered naturopathic medicine probably over 20 years ago. And as soon I was already on that path, reading about plant medicine and reading about other ways of healing the body besides pharmaceutical medications and surgery and birth control pills,
Yeah.
which were recommended to me to help regulate my cycle. And I was already on that path. And when I discovered naturopathic medicine, I was like, oh my God, this is exactly what I want to do. This is my calling. This is my next career. So off I went to the Pacific Northwest, applied, got into this university, which was my first choice. went off to the Pacific Northwest and studied this medical school program where we studied physiology and anatomy and microbiology and endocrinology and all the sciences, all the basic sciences, and then, of course, all the clinical sciences as well. However, the treatment approach is different. So the treatment approach, it's very similar to functional medicine. So I'm going to use the term functional medicine and naturopathic medicine interchangeably because they're very similar at looking at all the body systems, looking at hopefully trying to find the underlying cause or causes as to why you're having these symptoms instead of just giving you there's nothing wrong with medications in some cases or surgery in some cases. Oftentimes there are many other solutions that are much more specific and focused at healing the underlying cause. And so I through this program we studied botanical medicine and homeopathy and counseling and nutrition and just so many different universal modalities at helping people heal. And in that process, I also was able to help myself through a lot of these symptoms that I just explained. So yeah, I right out of the university, shortly after I took my board exams, and then I worked for a clinic up in the Pacific Northwest, which was an integrative, now you would call it a functional medicine clinic, but it was very integrative. We had a lot of different practitioners and doctors there, and I studied under this doctor, mentored under him, and learned about bioidentical hormones and menopause and perimenopause and all sorts of not only women's health conditions but also men's health. So back in the day, I saw a lot of male clients. I kind of saw a lot of different cases, a lot of different ages, and a lot of different medical conditions. But one of the things that I kept coming back to was women's health, hormone conditions, gut health, skin, lots of thyroid, adrenal stress, fatigue, insomnia, all sorts of other conditions. And having gone through that experience or those experiences myself, I have this passion, this mission to help other women heal, not just from a physical perspective, but also from the emotional, psychological, and energetic perspective as well.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I relate on so many levels too, just with the multi-symptom cascade, I would say, and just getting to the place where you recognize that this health is a holistic ecosystem that really exists together. And I think it is really interesting that for women, our reproductive system is really one of probably the first system to go off the rails, that gives us that signal that something is off and misaligned in our life. And oftentimes it does happen. I think what's interesting is that it happens when we're young. And so it oftentimes is before we really know ourselves, know our needs, know our values. And it is really almost this opportune time where we can get that belief system that we need to treat the problem rather than understand this, what is the root underlying misalignments that might be causing it. And I think that nowadays, young girls are luckier that this type of conversation is in the zeitgeist a bit more and you can easily find it. But back in the day, I know when I struggled with similar as well, I was given medication for IBS. I was given like also hormones, the birth control option, which I never took either for my irregular or difficult periods. And I think it is really interesting that and at a young age, if you start to view life very compartmentalized in that way, where you're treating diagnoses and you're constantly being diagnosed with stuff, and then you're treating those diagnoses rather than seeing it as a holistic symptom map, um, your brain can almost take the shape of seeing the world that way, and you almost have to relearn to see the world in a more holistic way. Do you see that with some of the women that you've worked with?
I mean, you touched on something really important. I think a lot of, and I might have mentioned this last week when you and I spoke, that I'm seeing a lot of younger females, like
Mhm.
teenagers. Well, they're usually contacting me through their mom because their mom usually reaches out to me and they're like, "I have a teenage daughter and she wants to come see you and she's got all these symptoms." And yes, the mother's usually on board as well. But these younger women are so receptive that in this day and age, I don't know what their generation is called, but they're so receptive to functional medicine, naturopathic medicine. And yes, we have the internet, we have social media. Obviously, we had the internet back when I was in my 20s, but we didn't have social media. We didn't have YouTube. We didn't have podcasts. We didn't have this information readily at our fingertips. And so, but they get it. They get it. They're like, I don't want to take medications. And I'm very much generalizing here, but a lot of the younger generation, they want to go about that holistic pathway and they want to get to the underlying cause. And even if it means they have to do, take supplements and take, do the unusual, urine testing for your hormones. I mean, they're willing to do that. My older clients do as well. But the younger ones, they definitely get it.
Yeah, I mean, or even like behavioral modification stuff, like the emotional, the therapy, or the mindfulness, the mind stuff. I feel like when I was struggling with my eating disorder, I'm not sure if we talked about this at length, but like with my years of my eating disorder, um, when I first started to get treated for it, quote unquote, when I became out of a secret and into more of the world, I was sent to therapy. I went to therapy, and it was like a shameful thing. Like back in 1999, I was 17 or 18 years old, and it was like a shameful. Like I had to keep it a secret. And I feel like now, that was the message I was told. Obviously, like I didn't keep it a secret, but it was a struggle, a real struggle. And now I feel like the moms and everyone is understanding that that IBS isn't a stomach issue. It is, you might feel it in your stomach, but it's a multi-level thing. It's a multi-level symptom of a bunch of different things. Weight gain, the same thing. It's inflammation from multi level things, metabolic syndrome, whatever it is. And so um, I do think that the acceptance of different modalities that might seem like they don't have anything to do with the organ that you're talking about, that the treatment plan might actually be a part of the treatment plan, might include some other area or some other modality, is more accepted these days.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. You just nailed it there with figuring out what's going on with the body. And it's easy, and I hear this all the time from my clients, prospective clients, that you go to Google, or you open up your device and you're like, oh, I've got this symptoms, what do I have? And it's easy to guess, or to think, oh my god, I think I maybe get a little paranoid at what might be going on. But it's really important to go to somebody who, not only is experienced and professional and they're seasoned in this, but they have the experience in the particular symptoms that you're showing, or the maybe if you have a diagnosis. But the interesting part here, or the key, is that it can be related to your blood sugar, it can be related to your stress, it can be related to the stress of your relationship. It can be that you hate your job. It can be that what you're eating, you think it's healthy, but it may be causing more inflammation, even though society and textbooks say, oh, you should be eating this food. And so it's really important to go to somebody who can kind of look at this from a much broader, bigger perspective, kind of like an eagle flying above and looking at all the landscape down below, but also kind of look at your body systems and each organ from an individual perspective, a smaller, more sensitive view, lens, that can figure out, oh, it actually is related to not just this one thing, but all these different things too. And that's the beauty and the magnificence of functional and naturopathic medicine.
Absolutely. I completely agree. I fell in love with functional and, integrative medicine years ago too. And also I got not as deep, definitely not as in depth as you. I'm not a doctor, but I got certified in functional nutrition and Ayurveda. And so, really, just harmonizing your own rhythms and your own body and really knowing yourself. Um, and really seeing yourself from that witness mind, that like bird's eye view is so important. And do you find that the women and the young girls that come to you are like, what are they looking for in general? Like, are they looking for confidence? Are they looking for a sense of self-worth? Are they looking to just, not that this isn't it, not that there's anything wrong with this, but are they looking to just fix a problem? Because I know that you and I both, connect on this, that feeling confident in your skin, and that starts with harmonizing your body, your energy, your life, the action that you take in your life, all those things matter and affect your physical health. And so how do you go about supporting women in really becoming that confident version of themselves?
That's a great question. And I really think it comes down to obviously the individual woman or the individual person and what's important to her. I think a lot of us can attest to when we're younger, we're a lot more sensitive to our peers and our social connections. We are when we get older too, but I think we tend to develop just simply through more experience, more wisdom, doing our own thing, being more authentic and who we are. I think the younger women still are very impressionable when it comes to their friends and their family members and their if they're dating their partners, and so there's more awareness of what other people are going to think. However, I think with so many resources today, with mindfulness meditation apps and mindfulness meditation podcasts and books and all sorts of resources, I think a lot of women, and then maybe even just the social connections, either locally in person, but also through social media, the different groups. I think there's a lot more compassion today than there certainly was when I was younger. I mean, God, I mean, there is a flip side to that, as we know. There's obviously a dark side to social media and exposing yourself, so to speak, and speaking your voice and showing your pictures on social media. But I think there's a lot more opportunities to become more confident in yourself at a younger
Mhm.
age, starting at a younger age, so that hopefully when you get older and you're into your 40s and 50s and you're perimenopausal and menopausal, you have a lot more confidence and a lot more self-esteem at being yourself, being who you really are. That, I mean, that would be my hope for
Yeah.
all women, not just younger women
Yeah.
and men.
What would you say is the most challenging age for women? What would you say?
I would say teen years. I would say teen years. I mean, high school can be great. It can be fun. It can be like there's that freedom. You're still at home. Somebody is paying your bills. They're, you know what I mean? But I think you're still so sensitive and so heavily influenced by what other people think and how you look. And are you going to go to school? What school are you going to? And how you dress and what car you drive? And how does your skin look? You know, if you're breaking out, even though like so many other people are breaking out too, or especially, you know, being a female, you're on your period and you're gaining weight now and all of a sudden your body's changing. I do think it does get better with each generation, or not generation. Well, yeah, that too. with each with each decade, I think it usually gets better. I mean, you just develop more confidence and you have more life experience, and maybe you get married, maybe you don't, maybe you're divorced, and you just, I think with each decade you have more and more experience, and that opportunity to really go after what you want in your life. And I think there's a lot more young entrepreneurs today than there ever has been, and I think that's incredible, because back when I was younger, I mean, I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. Are you kidding me? I mean, that was the thing, is you go to college, you get a job, you stay there for however many years
Yeah.
or decades, and then you retire. And but nowadays, there's so many incredible business owners under the age of 30, definitely under the age of
Mhm.
40, who are crushing it out there. And so kind of going back to your original question, I do think the younger, more impressionable years can be a bit challenging. College, it's like you're in your 20s and you're developing different types of friendships and different types of relationships. If you went to college, if you didn't, that's okay too. Um, I just think that, and then you're still under the control of your parents.
Yeah.
You're financially dependent on them, and you can't really make your own decisions. But yet you want to because you're now a teen. So, but it does get better. That's been my experience and the experience of so many of the people in my circle.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, for me, my 40s has easily been my best decade, mainly because I just feel so much more that self permission to be myself, and I think that it was a lot of unlearning, being kind of that bridge generation as like a Gen X millennial. Um, really just I was like I really do feel like looking back, they're going to see that this generation is, it's was a crazy time. And I am curious, do you see that difference in those micro generations of like Gen X, the millennials, and the, and maybe the younger millennials? I feel like, do you see any? Because I know that the women that I work with are primarily mid 30s to mid 40s. And I do think that that is the older millennial kind of Gen X cusp. And I do find that it has been a really challenging time to navigate and almost assimilate the way that the values of the world has changed, like the opportunities and also what we know as far as like, which I think are good. And you touched on it. It's like, it's so great that we have self expression, but it can like teeter over into exploitation. And there's a boundary that I think our generation has that, is a good safety net, sort of like safety lever. But there is that almost, what's the word? Like when you have, like training wheels, or when you have like a safety lock on something that I think maybe hold some women back and create a stress in their bodies. Does it make sense what I'm saying? Kind of, where like, have you seen different experiences of life in those micro generations?
Think it depends on the woman. I mean,
Okay.
I've seen a lot of women in their 30s in the last several years. I'd say the majority of them are married with kids. So I don't know if I'm speaking to your audience or
Mm,
the clients that you treat, but a lot of my clients, they're married and they have children, and that's a whole other topic. That's a whole other conversation as well, because there can be, you look on social media, you're like, look at them, their Christmas photo, look at them on vacation. You have no idea what's going on behind, when you're not on taking a picture of your family and putting it on Facebook or Instagram. There's a lot of stress and challenge that women face that I don't think they're talking about it as much. They
mhm.
kind of are. They're bringing it up on social media from time to time, maybe when they have a meltdown or they went through bad experience, and this is after the fact. But I think there's a lot more struggle. Maybe there always was, but there's a lot more expectations that women are expected to uphold and to be and to look a certain way and to act a certain way and be a certain way and be successful, but also be a great mom and a great wife, and make sure you go to the gym, make sure you eat super healthy, and make sure you take care of everybody else. And I think it's impossible.
Yep.
So this isn't necessarily spoken outright with the women that I talk with, but I can sense there's a lot going on. And then as women get into their 40s and 50s, if they have aging parents, that's added on to them as well, especially if you're a female, because typically, again, generalizing, but a lot more women that get old, that are older, take care of their parents, or they're the kind of the power of attorney, so to speak. And I just feel like maybe 50 years ago, there wasn't as many women in the workforce. And it
Mhm.
wasn't even expected. And if you didn't work, that was okay. And I think it was a smaller percentage that did actually get a job or go to medical school or become an attorney or get into politics. But nowadays, I feel like women are like, I'm not working, but I'm taking care of my kids. But is that okay? Should I be working? Or the opposite is true. If you don't have children and it's just you and you're just taking care of yourself, and maybe you've got a partner, it's like, are you selfish because you don't have a family? So I feel like there's a lot of pressure for women to be all things, and this conversation is definitely coming to the surface more and more. I think it should come up even further and discuss, because I think there's a lot of, I mean, look on social media and you see these perimenopausal and menopausal women that are like at the gym and doing barbell classes, and that's like a big trend right now, which I think is incredible.
Mhm.
That just because you're in your 40s and 50s and you're gaining weight, that doesn't mean that you need to just let it all go and let yourself go and, suffer with your health. But I do think that that pressure can cause a lot of meltdowns and a lot of anxiety and depression with women, maybe men too. I'm not going to speak to that, but
Mhm.
I think when women can share in groups, in confidential groups, or women's circles, in a place where they feel safe to say, "Hey, I'm struggling too. I hate the fact that we have to do all these things and wear all these hats and still keep it all together." I think that awareness is going to help shift things quite a bit.
Yeah. Oh my god, absolutely. And to your point, I think the conversation is so important. I think really recognizing that even though you have all this opportunity, it doesn't mean you need to take all the opportunities. I think that coming to terms for myself, it wasn't even coming to terms. Like I didn't want children. It was just something that I knew at a young age, and was consistently told that I was going to change my mind, that wasn't true, that, oh, you're in a phase, you're just in a place in life. Um, and it really was something that, I don't know, I feel lucky that I had that inner knowing and didn't get myself into a position in my 30s or my late 20s where, I could have made things messier for myself, which for some people that's their journey and that's fine. But I had this higher kind of awareness with myself, which I think is lucky, and which it is what I really teach a lot of my students and clients in the work that I do with them, is to connect to that and to feel empowered and confident in making choices for yourself, and knowing that there's so much. Like I've had women that I work with who have a lot of weight to lose. They think it's about food, but then, and maybe it is a little bit about food, but they end up feeling this internal permission to live how they want to live and harmonize like a couple things and create some boundaries, like learn some skills, communicating or whatever it is, and just they feel that inner sense of permission and the weight comes off. Like, you know what I mean? It's just and things just balance better. And I feel like that is such an important part of healing as well as supplements, as well as, food medicine and all that stuff too. I think it's that inner sense of permission, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, just hearing you speak about when you just like let it all go and you just like exhale and you're like, do I really want to do that? Do I really want to take on that project? Do I really want to pursue that another certification? Do I really want to have children or not? Do I really want to do this? And when you can finally not only get the clarity, but that authentic connection with yourself, that intuition, where you're like, nope, this is this is a hell no, and it should be a hell yes. I mean, I really need to tune into that and say no to the things that no longer are part of my path, and I don't want them part of my path, and I need to do things that feel good to me and they're healthy and they're nourishing. And that takes a lot of courage, to be honest. I mean, that really takes a lot of courage in this day and age, because we're so like conditioned to like, oh, we got to do this and this perfectionism, we got to do another class, another program, and drive this car or live in this neighborhood, whatever. And I think when you can finally just say, no, this is who I am. And I think that nervous system becomes more grounded, more centered, more rooted. And then that's when you're no longer tight. You're no longer like restricted and contracted. And your nervous system has that beautiful dance between the parasympathetic and sympathetic. And then all of a sudden, your body's no longer in fight or flight all the time. And
Yep.
then now your body's able to burn through the reserves and burn through the fat. And now you're like, your weight's a little bit easier to maintain.
Exactly. And I just feel like it's so nice to hear you as a professional doctor acknowledge and say that. I think that's really important for people to hear. I do think that there's value in that. And and that's one of the reasons why I was really looking forward to this conversation, because it is really something that, though the conversation is being had more, I do think there are still medical doctors that are hesitant to really um, anchor their flag on that.
Yeah, I sometimes I feel like I'm in a bubble myself, because I do know, yes, there are still doctors that are very, and not just conventional medical doctors, other types of alternative holistic functional and naturopathic doctors. Sometimes we can get very, what's the word, we're very guarded in our way of doing things, and this is the way we've always done it. I mean, there was this recent interview, this was it Dr. McDougall? I think he was like the
Mm,
vegan physician that just passed away, and he was a big staunch advocate for a vegetarian diet and the many advantages, and he didn't want to see another possibility of eating animal protein or eating other types of diets. And he was so closed off and so restricted to any other possibility. So it's not just mainstream medicine, but sometimes I think in my own little world, like, oh, this is how everybody is. And it's like, no, that's not how a lot of people see medicine or healthcare or insurance or what they should put into their body. And I think I'm totally guilty of this, that I assume people know more. I assume because of the internet and because maybe they've been to other doctors and other practitioners that they know all this information. And I forget, which is actually okay. I forget that people, they really do need guidance. They really do need education and support and resources. But they also need it for their body, for their preference, for their lifestyle, for what works for their health. And
mhm,
that's again why I love, functional naturopathic medicine, is because it very much is personalized to that person. And that's really the hallmark of personalized medicine, is you're meeting the person where they're at. You're still giving them guidance, you're still giving them information, like this, I really think like this might be something that would help you. I mean, I have seen a fair number of clients over the years where they eat a certain way and they think that's the way they've always done it, and that's the way they have to do it for the rest of their lives, or they've always been a runner, or they've always done this in their life. And it's like, well, is that really working for you?
mhm.
Can I show you maybe another possibility? You give them the information, and then they can make that decision. So um and again, that's the uniqueness of every human being, is that it really should be tailored to that person.
For sure. And then them taking that action, being awake to the feedback they get from taking that action, and then hopefully um iterating or really just accepting that verified experience to further enhance the behavior change, hopefully. I think that that's important as well. I'm curious, what do you do personally to prioritize feeling good and prioritize making sure that you feel like the best version of yourself? Because I know that you're like in your 50s now, yeah, so you've had
I am 50.
50,
50.
yeah. 50, yeah. Hopefully that's okay that I
Yeah.
said it. I think it's really exciting to talk about women's ages, and like you've had such a journey of you just had know so much because of your lived experience of all these different phases of women. So I feel like for you, what is something that you What are the things that you do to prioritize?
Do quite a bit. Thank you for that, by the way. So I love to cook. Like I love being in the kitchen. It's my zen place. It's my comfort zone. I love to cook, and even if it's healthy, even if it's just chopping the same vegetables I chopped yesterday, like for me, it's very calming. There's a lot of people out there, especially women, who are having, and maybe men too. They're like, "Oh my god, I have to cook another meal," and
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. It's very grounding for me. And so, yes, I love to eat healthy. I don't, certainly don't have a perfect diet. And for me, it's all about balance. It's all about tuning into your body. Like what feels good? If I eat these sweet potato fries, it's okay, whatever. Like I'm not going to eat, a pound of them every day. So for me, it's about the balance. So mostly healthy. I love the paleo diet. Like I'm a big advocate for that. Personally,
Mhm.
that's what I do. So it's mostly vegetables, healthy sources of animal protein, healthy fats. And then sometimes, I do have I love dark chocolate. I love
Same.
coffee. I love red wine. Like there are things that I really enjoy in my life. And again, it's all about that moderation and knowing, okay, maybe I overdid it when I went on vacation, or maybe I overdid it over the weekend, whatever. So now I'm going to get back into my routine. I love to exercise. Yesterday, I have a gym membership, and I went to a kettlebell class, which
Ah,
I'll admit, I actually don't love the kettlebell, but it was a new class that they're featuring at this gym. And I've done kettlebell before. And I was like, oh, this is going to suck. My arms are going to hurt tomorrow. But I loved it. It was something new. It was invigorating. It was cardiovascular. There was some weight training there too. And for me, it's not just about my legs are stronger, and maybe I've lost a few inches. Yes, that's important too, because I want to feel good. I want to look good. I want to look healthy. But for me, it's a stress relieving activity, and not only stress relieving, like if there's something bothering me or something plaguing me and I can't quite figure out a solution, for me, it's very meditative. So I get a
mhm.
lot of downloads. I get a lot of information that comes streaming in. It's like the portal opens, and I get a lot of ideas and a lot of creativity and a lot of answers to my questions sometimes, to the universe, to God, to source, to myself. And I get a lot of those insightful downloads when I exercise. So for me, it's stress relieving. It keeps me healthy. I usually enjoy it, whether it's at the gym. Sometimes I'll do like at home workouts through YouTube, which I discovered during the pandemic,
So good.
or going for a walk in nature. And so,
Mhm.
and then, obviously water intake. And then another piece that I'm going to add in here, which I think is so important, and it's become even more important to me in the last several years, is my social connection. That to me, like you could be healthy, you could go to your gym, you could take your supplements, and you can get to bed by 10 p.m. But without that social network, that social community, the quality of your friendships, the quality of your relationships, that is not just frosting on a cupcake. That's actually essential for your mental health, your emotional health, and your physical
Yeah.
health, to be honest, as well.
Yeah. I mean, I say that that's nutrition. Like, I think you don't just metabolize food, like you metabolize like energy. And, I think we talk so much about boundaries in life to kind of repel bad energy, but I think that the flip side of that is learning how to attract the right good energy for you, because that's not just something that is nice to have. That's actually necessary, I think, for hormone balance, for mental health, and even to make your body in a state of harmony so that you can metabolize your food well and absorb the nutrients from the food. So it's like, again, all together, and people will sometimes forego the social connection because they're too busy or because they're prioritizing their own healing or something, and it's like, let me isolate. And not to say that there's not a value in solitude, right? And that's a whole other conversation, the difference between isolation and solitude. But I do think that it is a skill to be social in a way that nourishes, that in a way that's nourishing. And I think that it does combine boundaries and receiving. And I don't know if that's being taught as much as it should. It's something that I teach in all my programs to women, because I think it is actually an integral skill that will, if you don't know it and you don't do it, it will undermine the results of any other healing modality that you try.
And you brought up another good point about, eating, eating in community, not just being around people. And yes, it's the quality of the people and the caliber of the people, and are they really, do you want them in your inner circle? But eating in community like we used to so many years ago, and having those social dinners or social meals that you would share together, I think that's so important. And yeah, sometimes we can maybe overdo it and maybe eat too much because we're around other people, we see other people eating, the mirror neurons, we're like, I'm gonna have another serving or
Uh-huh.
another glass of wine. Or but I think sometimes you brought up something really important about when you're in the company and in the presence of other people that you really enjoy and really respect, and it's supportive and it's a nourishing, nurturing relationship with those people or that one person, you are going to digest your food better. You are going to be more in that relaxed parasympathetic state,
Mm-hmm.
and you are going to assimilate and absorb your food. And you're also going to secrete more oxytocin, whether you're
Yep.
touching them or not. You have more of
Mm-hmm.
those feel good hormones and serotonin, and that's also going to support not only your mental health but also the health of your physical body, because you are getting those nutrients. And so I think that's a very, very big issue, even though the pandemic's gone, or it's hopefully resolved. I think a lot of people suffered not just from having to wear masks and not being able to see people smile, but that disconnection from other people and being able to share those experiences, especially for people that lived alone. If you had families, there was probably way too many people in the house. But for those people that are single or are not in a partnership, or maybe their kids moved away, or you don't have children, I think a lot of people really struggled with that connection and sharing meals and sharing conversations. And
Or even in like a toxic partnership, right? Like a partnership that
yeah,
maybe is not supportive, right? Like just being around somebody and having somebody isn't, the
totally.
best if it's not, if it's toxic. So I feel like that's super important. And I also feel like there's that extrinsic trigger for the disconnection, but then there's also, I think, societal um the societal girl boss hustle culture um stuff that I think, and like kind of circling back to what we said before, where women could do it all, where they are prioritizing quote unquote doing it all, and there's no time for connection, and it feels like it's being deprioritized, I think. And I think that is a problem, and I think that it really is about getting in touch with your core values and needs, and then recognizing that there might be some quote unquote sacrifices that you have to make, and it's unique. It's it's not like, let's say you turn down some sort of work opportunity for something more socially related or relationship related. It's up to you to say to yourself, oh, I'm not all of a sudden becoming like a 1950s housewife again. It's up to you to be like, no, I'm making this decision because it's in the best interest of my nervous system and my hormone health. And it's not black and white. And I think that level of clarity and individuation is key to being healthy as well.
Yeah. And, kind of going back to, I think the pandemic brought up a lot of opportunities for coaching. I joined so many, maybe too many, women's mentorship coaching programs during that time from actually right before 2019, all the way through the pandemic. Not only just to help scale your business or increase your income, but also just that female connection. I would say the majority of the groups that I belonged to were mostly women, and that connection, that even if it was through Zoom, even if it was through a
Yep.
computer, or email, like just that connection. And I think this is a very, very, and that's kind of why I'm creating a separate business on women
Mhm.
entrepreneurship and spiritual conscious entrepreneurship, because I think women are craving not only social connection with the right circle of female friendships, but
Yes.
also women colleagues too, and that support and that advocacy and encouragement. And you're, what's that saying, you're a rising tide lifts all ships. It's like you
Mhm.
support one another, and even if you're in the same industry. And that is really, really definitely coming to the surface. I was just on a call this morning. I was on another call the other day, a Zoom call, and it's such a big thing right now. And fortunately, yes, now we can meet in person. We can also meet through Zoom, but that is something that is really going to change the game for women in
Mhm.
business. Is you don't have to do it alone. It's easy to do it alone, and you think you have to do it alone, and I'm totally guilty of that. I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm gonna work and I'm gonna do all this, and I'm going to forego this social event.
Mhm.
And then later, the next day, I'm like, God, maybe I should have gone to that, because I would have felt so much better. And I can always do my work later. But knowing that that's essential, not only for your health, but for your business, because business is about relationships. And
Yes.
you're not necessarily going to these events to get a sale or to get a referral, but business is about relationships and money is about relationships. And so, yeah, it's all connected.
100%. Okay. Well, I have taken up so much of your time. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube, when I started this conversation with Kristi, it was sunny and then it started pouring rain,
Oh my
like
gosh.
majorly pouring, and now it's pitch black. Like, and so if you're watching this on YouTube, you see like the darkness behind me. It's like, why doesn't she have any lighting? It's because I was
So
blown
funny.
out before
Oh my
and then
gosh.
it just totally downpoured.
Oh my
So,
gosh. Yeah.
okay.
Looks like
Um,
midnight where you're at.
I know, and it's 5 o'clock. Okay. And in Kentucky, where the sun doesn't go down till 10 p.m.
Oh my
So
gosh.
anyway, I'm not getting up. I'm just gonna leave it as it is. But I want you to give us three takeaways before we let you go that you feel is the key to just confidence, whole, that balance living that I feel like you've really gotten yourself to an amazing place with and are so inspiring for other women.
I think again, going back to that personal authenticity of what it is that works for your body and what it is that works for your life and what feels truly aligned with what you want for your life, and being a matter of fact and being completely in your own element as to what works for your body and knowing what you need and going after it. And again, that takes courage. It takes courage within yourself, but it definitely takes courage to maybe be different than other people.
Mm-hmm.
I think the self-care, again, that's gonna be very personalized to what is important to you, and as much self-care activities as you can, whether it's lunch with a girlfriend or maybe it's staying at home. I mean, sometimes self-care can just be like, I'm just going to hang out at home and do my own thing with a book and a cup of tea and a candle. And whatever that means for you, I think that's honoring yourself. And again, kind of going back to the power of relationships and the power of community. And I do believe community is medicine. And I think it can be incredibly healing, because I think we can do so much more in the presence of others and with the support of others. So it's knowing, kind of like we talk about the balance of food and everything in moderation. The same thing with your life, knowing when you need that alone time, but also knowing when you need to reach out for help.
Oh, amazing. That's such great advice. I feel like if you're listening, just pause, rewind that last minute, and just re listen to that on loop for sure. Um, Kristi, tell us where we can find you, the best ways to connect with you. Love to hear it.
Yeah, you can find me through my website, Dr. Kristi, and doctor is spelled out, Kristi spelled out, DoctorKristi.com. I think that'll be in your show notes. Instagram is Dr. Kristi Tompkins, completely spelled out. And that's pretty much my name on Facebook and LinkedIn. I kind of dabbled a little bit in TikTok, but that's still a little bit intimidating to me.
Same.
I have an account.
Can't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay,
you.
cool. Oh, you're so welcome. Well, thank you so much again for this conversation. So amazing. I'm just so delighted to have you on. And for everyone listening, thank you so much again for continuing to listen to this podcast, continuing to share. Please subscribe. Please leave a review. We're on Apple, we're on Spotify, and I am here every week sharing new episodes on self love, self confidence, overcoming emotional eating, helping you with weight loss, sustaining it for lasting change. And so until next time, I'm Alana, and thank you for listening to Emotional Eating Unwrapped.